would like my remarks to be fairly brief, and I will tell you that I'm reluctant to discuss particular proposals simply because I want to make sure the full task force weighs in and agrees that we achieve consensus before we formulate our recommendations to the President. But we can talk in somewhat general terms. What I want to do is kind of outline the scope of why it's a problem, why we think it's important that we begin to address the problem. The task force that I chair consists of 10 faculty members, widely distributed in terms of college, and 5 student members. We meet twice a week, typically 8 a.m. Thursday and Friday mornings. I'm wide awake. I get up at 4:30 every morning, but some people drag themselves into the meeting. And we have been kind of dividing the workload in the following way. We took the first, I would say, 6 weeks of those meetings to have a variety of sort of expert witnesses, people from the registrar's office, financial aid, from the provost's office, vice provost and associate vice provost and so on, who know a lot about the scope of the problem that we're facing. We had student leaders come in and talk, share their views. We had some folks that are from off campus, but who have definite perspectives on this issue. So that's the context. We'll be, again, meeting this week. Dean Music is the, I actually appointed him to the task force and to be our data gatherer and analyst. As you probably know, Mark Music is a very experienced quantitative sociologist and has a lot of data analytic skills that this task force desperately needs, and has been doing a lot of work gathering and sharing with the task force the relevant data. Here are 2 numbers. The current UT 4-year graduation rate is around 52%, somewhere between 51 and 52%. The 6-year graduation rate is a little over 80%. As far as that 6th-year graduation rate goes, that's pretty close to the total graduation rate. That is, if you go out beyond 6 years, you get a few stragglers, but that would only add a couple of percentage points to the overall graduation rate if you just sort of say, given infinite time, how long, what percentage of the students will graduate. The focus of the committee is not on the 6-year rate. It is entirely on the 4-year rate, and it's not limited to students who are first time in college. That is to say, we are concerned about transfer students and making sure they graduate in a timely way. But first time in college graduation rates, that is people who entered as a freshman, that is an important number because it's the benchmark that all institutions use in assessing its success in graduation rates. So, what is the goal of our task force? Well, let me say that in his State of the University address a little over a week ago, President Powers announced that his goal, and that means it's our goal as a task force, is to raise the 4-year first time in college graduation rate to 70% from its current 52%. And what's more, he wants to accomplish that in 5 years, within 5 years. It's not going to happen in a year, no matter what we recommend. It is going to take some time. Can we do this? Can we achieve what the President has announced as the goal? I think we better. I'm utterly committed. The task force members are committed to providing recommendations that have enough impact on this set of issues that we will achieve that goal. But I will tell you, it is not going to be easy. There are a number of built-in impediments. You know, if you look at comparable institutions with comparable average SAT scores, we're about where the others are. So in order to boost the four-year graduation rate from 52% to 70%, we're going to have to do things that have not been done, for the most part, at other universities. We're going to have to be innovative. Now let me announce right off the bat that one of the ways that it might be suggested that we increase graduation rates is by dumbing down the curriculum or giving out more A's and B's. That's not going to happen. That's not part of the president's agenda. It's certainly not part of the task force agenda. We are not going to degrade the quality of the UT degree by making it easier to pass courses. But having said that, there are, in fact, a lot of things that we can do, and we're talking fast and furiously now about which of those approaches, which of those solutions might give us the greatest impact for perhaps a modest cost. We're looking at what administrators like to call low-hanging fruit first, but we're going to look at everything. And the recommendations that we present to the president, our target is this December, are going to be serious. They're going to be designed to be able to achieve the goal within that 5-year time frame. What are the sources of the problem? And what are the components of failure to graduate within 4 years? One is simply that some people take longer to graduate than 4 years. Quite a few students take 4.5 years, 5 years, more still will graduate in 6 or 6.5 years. As I said, the 6-year rate is a little over 80%. So one of the factors that we have to be concerned about is how do we reduce the time to degree from an average that is over 4 years to an average that is 4 years. And I want to come back to that. The other two components to this problem are people who just don't graduate at all. And they fall into two categories: those who are dismissed for academic reasons, and those who just drop out for whatever reason. These are dropouts are students who are not perhaps in academic jeopardy, but for whatever reason they choose to drop out. Now the word dropout, it may be a misnomer because it suggests they're dropping out, they're giving up on college. And quite a few of the students who are in that category actually are not dropping out, they're simply switching to a different institution, one that they view is a better fit for their particular interests. One of the things that we have already talked about is how to make sure that incoming UT students know whether or not UT is a good fit, or whether the particular major that they may have in mind, or set of majors, would be a good fit for them. Because sometimes what happens is they really should not have come to UT in the first place. Somebody may come wanting to get into the McCombs School of Business and not be admitted, and they might be admitted through the cascading process to liberal arts, but they're kind of waiting around to make the shift back into the McCombs School, and that rarely happens. And then maybe 2 years or 3 years into it, they finally switch to a business school at the university. Now, we want to try to avoid that kind of situation for a couple of reasons. One is it's really a waste of resources all around. Not to say they don't get anything, but think of how much better it would have been for that student if they had gone directly into the program that they were eventually successful in. So we have to really look at the fit between the incoming student and the programs that we have. There are, on the other hand, cases of dropouts who just decide, I'm not hacking it, or I'm not interested, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to go to work. They may do this for reasons of, for financial reasons. They may do it because they've gotten an idea and they decided to set up a startup company, and it becomes Dell Computer or something like that. I like to say, think what Michael Dell could have achieved in life if he had only graduated from UT. But the fact of the matter is, both dropouts and dismissals represent a kind of failure of the institution and the student to achieve the goals they set out to when they came here. And we want to reduce both of those numbers, and that's something that the task force is looking at very, very closely. How do we achieve a lower rate of academic dismissal that is a greater level of academic success among the students? Every time we admit a student, this is a bet that this student is going to succeed at UT, that is to say graduate. And we want to eliminate, where possible, cases where students are either not prepared or not getting the kind of advising they need, or just kind of foundering without institutional support. We want to try to improve that situation as much as we can. Those are some of the main issues that I wanted to talk about. But I do want to tell you one thing that the task force has sort of agreed on. This is tentative. It may change. But before I tell you what it is, I want to ask the following question. Raise your hand if you feel personally that graduating in 4 years is important or very important. Raise your hand. Okay. Pretty sizable majority of you. Now, you may be a select group. I suspect you are, if you came to this. When the survey was done, the larger UT survey, can you tell us what the numbers were?
Yeah, so, how many of you filled out the SERU? Some of you did. So you may remember there was a very long survey. About 40% of you filled it out. That's about the response rate. And the question was asked, how important is it for you to graduate in 4 years, or if you're a transfer student, 2 years? Students could say not important, not very important, some important, important, very important, essential. So let's just take those top 2 categories of very important, essential. Only about 47% of you answered in those 2 categories. So over half the campus basically was in the lower part of the distribution.
Now, again, this group weighed in heavily on the side, although I used the wrong categories. I said important and very important. Very important or essential. But one of the things that we're concerned about as a task force is how do we convince the university community, particularly the students and their families, that it is a good thing to graduate in 4 years. And one of the things I want to broach with you, and we can talk about it in the Q&A, are some of the reasons why graduating 4 years is a positive thing. First, there is a strong association between graduating in 4 years and academic success. Now, we are both social scientists, and we know that a mere correlation is not the same thing as a causal relationship. And it may be that really able, well-prepared students are going to both do well, have a high GPA, and graduate in 4 years. But there's growing evidence to suggest that students who are, and I'm going to have Mark talk about this in more detail in just a moment, students who are well integrated in the campus, socially and academically, we're going to try to explain what that means, both do well and they graduate in less time. And we think that may be, in fact, a causal factor. We're actually operating on the basis of a theory that has quite a lot of empirical support. Do you want to say more about this issue of the integration?
Yeah, sure. So there's theory about student retention and graduation and success that goes back 2 or 3 decades. Is anyone here a student in the School of Education? Are they familiar with the work of Tinto or people like him, Aston? Well, Monica's raising her hand because she's been doing a lot of this research. Monica's actually staff in my division. She works in liberal research services. And some of you may know she also is a former LAC member. Vincent Tinto has been writing this stuff since the 1970s. And he's been really doing a lot of research on why students are successful in college. And then there are other people like Aston who have followed on his heels, who's also done some work in this area. These are people who've been working for many years and on this issue, and they all come to the same similar conclusions. And the conclusions are basically that students who are better academically integrated and socially integrated tend to perform better in college. Now, many people misunderstand integration for what I might call engagement. Engagement is simply doing academic things, going to class, studying, etc. Integration is somewhat different. Integration is more about your perception of how you fit into the culture. So you can be very engaged and not integrated because you don't feel like you're part of the culture. So what we have to do is not just increase engagement levels, that's important, but also change people's perceptions so that they believe that they're an important part of the academic culture. And you can imagine that at a place like UT, that can be a formidable task because of its size. But I will tell you, for example, I don't know if anybody saw it, but there was an article in the Alcalde not long ago about a study that used CERU data to look at the association between participating in undergraduate research and student success outcomes. Did anyone see that piece? A couple of people did. And that was a paper that was presented at the National Conference on CERU. And it showed that basically students who did undergraduate research did better in various ways. But more importantly, that effect was the strongest amongst the students who were the least prepared when they got to UT, the lowest SAT scores and those sorts of things. What it really suggests is that academic integration, as measured by undergraduate research, is a very good predictor of student success, especially for students who aren't as prepared coming in. Those are the sorts of things that we need to be focusing on. We need to get students integrated into this campus more so than they are right now. And so that's basically what it is.
So that first point is students will, we believe, perform better, not just for correlational reasons, but for causal reasons, by being better integrated and also graduating in 4 years. Again, we see a strong association. A second point, this is maybe more important to some of you than others, or more important to your parents than you save money. We estimate, we all know the cost of tuition, somewhere around $9,000 to $10,000 a year. It varies across colleges. But there are other expenses, there are books, there are living expenses. Of course, there are also opportunity costs. That means that you're here and you're probably not working, or you're working just part-time rather than working full-time. And so there's that cost. But we estimate about $20,000 a year extra for every year in addition to the 4 years that you spend here. Now, that cost is not borne purely by you. It's also borne by the taxpayers of the state of Texas. And one of the reasons that this discussion has been particularly robust lately is that a lot of folks, and I agree with this, feel that higher education is, it's very costly, and we've got to figure out ways of keeping the cost down, both for the student in terms of what they will pay ultimately, but also for the taxpayer who subsidizes residential tuition. That's most of you. So it is important to consider that every semester you are here, it's another $10,000 essentially. Every year, about $20,000. Not to mention, again, the opportunity costs. By getting through in 4 years, you can go on to one thing you can do is go on the job market and begin making money. So again, there's an economic advantage, a fairly powerful one with a college degree. You know, I hesitate to say this given the current state of the job market, but with a college degree, you're more marketable. You can command higher salaries than without it. But if you get through in 4 years, if the difference between 4 years and 6 years is not going to affect your starting salary, but it is going to affect how many years you collect that salary. So earning more by you know, putting your degree to use on the job market. Now, another thing you can do, and this is sort of the fourth point I want to make, is instead of going to the workforce, you can go and get an advanced degree, a master's degree, a PhD, some other advanced degree, a law degree. By getting through in 4 years, you're shortening the overall time that you spend getting an education, whatever the degrees you finally obtain. 4 years allows you to achieve that goal in fewer years, obviously, until then if you had stayed 5 or 6 years. And then finally, by doing it in 4 years, you're saving resources for the institution. And you know, I've been here for 36 years, and I can say quite honestly, without any embarrassment, at all, that I love the University of Texas at Austin. I love being a professor here, an administrator. I want to see the institution survive, not just survive, but thrive. I want to see it get better and better. And when we use our resources more efficiently, more effectively, it allows us to invest in other ways of building excellence. So by economizing in terms of the number of years that you're here and the number of years that the taxpayers or the institution are subsidizing your education, it helps the institution. So there are a number of compelling reasons to shoot for the 4-year mark. And on that note, I just want to say that if there's any doubt at all that we, the president, the members of the task force, and the university community are serious about this issue, let me try to reassure you. You know, the proof will be what do we do, and how quickly can we implement our recommendations. But I assure you, we are very, very serious about accomplishing this goal. So what we'd like to do is open it up for questions. At various points, we may be sort of taking our own polls, using you as a kind of focus group, if you don't mind. But let's start with questions. Yes.
Thank you, Sandy. I want to thank you all for coming here today. My name's Yaman, and I'm a member of the Liberal Arts TVAC, and I want to ask you kind of a two-part question. The first is President Powers in his State of the University address talked about cultivating the mind, and that being probably the #1 goal of the university. And so my first question is, how do you find a balance between making sure you're cultivating the mind and making sure people are getting out in 4 years? And second, with increasing opportunities, increasing technology, increasing information in our society in general, as well as different opportunities such as study abroad and Archer and programs like that, how long do you think that the 4-year model that was established, decades ago will still stick around?
That's an excellent question. It gets to the heart of a whole lot of the discussions that we've had on the task force. Let me say that one of the kind of pleasant surprises that we encountered recently, in fact, Mark was the one who found this study, and it was a study done by Heather Barclay-Hamir in our international office, who runs Study Abroad. Do you want to tell about the study?
Sure. So Heather, or Dr. Hamir, recently finished her PhD, and she wrote her dissertation on how study abroad affects time to degree and college success in general, graduation rates. She used data from UT Austin, the 2002 cohort. Anybody here from the 2002 cohort? I hope not. But she used data from the 2002 incoming cohort. And what she showed was that students who participate in study abroad, controlling for college readiness issues like high school rank and SAT scores, stuff like that, students who study abroad were more likely to graduate by far compared to students who didn't study abroad. In fact, I think at the 8-year mark, students who have been studying abroad were like 7 more times to have graduated than students who didn't study and study abroad or didn't do study abroad. Okay, so it's clear that study abroad, controlling for all these selection factors, leads to greater graduation rates, but does it slow time to degree? She did extensive testing of that one question, because this is a common perception on study abroad that it slows time to degree. And what she found was that's just not true. That controlling for all these other factors, study abroad does not slow time to degree. So then we've been looking at that research. I'm meeting with her on Thursday to talk more about her research. I'm a quantitative sociologist, I'm a professor in sociology. I've directed a lot of dissertations. I know what a good dissertation looks like. And this is a good dissertation. She did a great job, and so I trust her results.
Your question was a bit broader. It embraced things like the Archer fellowships, internships. We don't have comparable data yet on those, but if I had to bet, it would be we'd get a comparable result. And I think, again, the common ingredient is going to be students who are academically and socially integrated. They feel a part of the enterprise. Are going to be more successful. Again, regardless of their level of preparation when they came here. And study abroad, doing advanced sort of independent research projects in the form of honors theses, doing internships like the Archer. These are going to be predictors of academic success, and I would wager that it's not just study abroad that leads to shorter time to degree, but these others as well. Sounds paradoxical, but you know, the numbers are pretty compelling. And remember, these now are not just correlational data, because she controlled for all the other likely causal variables.
Can I just add on to that? I want to make sure everybody is on the same page in understanding these 4-year rates. So we mentioned the 4-year rate was 52%. The 6-year rate is about 81%. What's the 5-year rate? The 5-year rate is 76%. Okay, so really what we need to do is take part of that 5-year rate and move it to 4 years. The 4.5-year rate, in other words, 4 years and 1 semester, is about 65%. Really, for many students, we're talking about shaving maybe a semester or 2 off of their time, and we got our 4-year graduation rate of 70%. We're not talking about moving from 6 to 4. We're talking about moving from 4.5 and 5 to 4. Okay? So that's something that all of you should keep in mind. We're not talking about these massive shifts. These are actually, maybe for many students, just 1 semester that they need to graduate a little bit earlier. The second, and this is way back, because the second part of your question was about the 4-year graduation rate. Is this an archetype? Or is this something that's a vestige of the past and shouldn't be changed? Do you know what Harvard's 4-year graduation rate is? It's about 98%. Their 6 year is about 98%. Their 4 years is up about 80, in the 80 somewhere. The University of Virginia 4-year graduation rate, how many of you actually read my report? I wrote a report on graduation rates around the United States that the president released not long ago. And I brought it with me so I could remind myself of the numbers. The 4-year graduation rate for Virginia is 84%. And you can't tell me that the University of Virginia isn't sending tons of students on study abroad. They're sending lots of students to study abroad. They're sending lots of students to Archer, to all these different programs. The reality is that you may be right. To some extent, a 4-year degree may be something that the colleges really need to think about. But they can think about it multiple ways. Maybe some degrees should be 5 years, it should be BA, MA. Some degrees maybe get them out in 3 years. And I think people have talked about those sorts of things. So maybe the 4 years is artificial cut point that we need to reconsider. But there are various ways that we can reconsider it. When I think about these numbers, I really focus on the fact that, like Dean Deal, I bleed orange. I love UT. I think we're one of the best universities in the United States. Not do I think it, I know it. And I think we can do as well as some of these other schools that do have graduation rates of 70% and are still sending many students to study abroad. They're still sending students to internships. We just have to find a way to do it, because I know it's possible.
Yes.
How do you measure integration? One is your students are involved in undergraduate research. Students are involved in study abroad. are there other ways to measure integration?
Academic integration. I mean, we've actually written very long grant proposals on this subject, and so we can spend a lot of time talking about integration. Generally speaking, when I think about integration, and Monica, you can chime in, you've done as much as I have. We think about things like study abroad, internships are a form of academic integration because they're usually paired with some academic component. You also have undergraduate research experiences. You have organizations that are structured around academic experiences, like academic honor societies. You have honors in general as a form of integration. I've recently created a new program in the College of Liberal Arts. It's not recent, it's about 2 years old. It's called U-Turn. It's a program for students on academic probation. It's really to try and make sure they don't go to dismissal. Students who get into that program, I would say, are more academically integrated. We have Gateway, we have TIP, we have Longhorn Scholars, we have programs that do these sorts of things over in engineering that I don't even know about. There are programs all over this campus that promote what I might call academic integration. And so how do we measure it? That's going to be tough. I mean, because there's so many different things that it could be. And so the question is, how would you really get at all of these different things and measure it? And that's going to be difficult to do.
But because it's as you said earlier, a measure in part of a perception, almost of an attitude the students have, I would think we could use, speaking as an experimental psychologist now, forms of attitude measurement that are fairly commonplace, but would have to be adapted to this particular kind of construct.
And in our research, you know, we're going to, if these grants come through, we're going to do a lot of research on these issues. And we're going to look at the development of what you might call a sense of integration, a sense of what the researchers call academic self-efficacy. This feeling that within the academic environment that you can be successful in what you do. And then there are also what we call theories of intelligence. For example, how many of you believe that the intelligence you're born with is just your intelligence and there's not much you can do to change it? A few of you? How many of you believe that you can actually try and become more intelligent over time through practice and skill building and those sorts of things? Okay, so we don't, you know, either of those two things may be true. What the research shows, though, is that people who believe the latter do better in academic circles. And so even if it's not true, if they believe it's true, they do better. So what we need to do is we need to find ways to build things like academic self-efficacy, senses of integration, theories of intelligence that are around the malleability of intelligence and not the intransigence of intelligence. Because people who believe those things about themselves tend to perform better over time. And you know, there are people around campus, it's not just me and Monica and people who work with who do this. There are a lot of people around campus doing these sorts of things. And we just have to bring that theory and knowledge to bear so that as the task force goes forward with those recommendations, we don't do so, you know, kind of in a theoretical way. We want theory to drive what we're doing. And I think the task force believes that.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm a double major in Japanese and business. And I'm asking, is there a correlation between the double majors and this 5 to 6 year rate, or what's the major causes to this? Is it that a lot of students are doing the double majors and it's making them cause like another semester, or are there other factors that go into, or is the major factor, you know, academic probations or students failing classes and everything?
You do that too.
Yeah.
You no, we don't know.
Okay.
That's the short answer. Part of the reason that Dean Deal asked me to come on this task force is to answer questions like that. And believe me, I'm hard at work doing it. I've been looking very closely at some of these data, and I'm going even further in looking at the data because this is a question I want to make sure I've answered correctly. Keep in mind that we have 3 different types of students on campus, okay? And when it comes to this issue, we have what are called single major students. They have one major, and maybe they declare a major and then undeclare it, and they keep that one major. Then we have what are called double majors, but these are double majors within the same college. And they're not pursuing 2 degrees, they're pursuing 1 degree but with 2 different majors. And I imagine many of you in here are like that. Maybe you're an English and government major, or plan to in government. I met with somebody today that has that major combination, right? These are what we might call double majors because they have 2 majors, but they're in the same college, they're getting 1 degree. And then we have called dual degrees. And your dual degree, right? Because you're getting a business degree and a liberal arts degree. For the double majors, you still only need 120 hours to graduate liberal arts, but I bet you need like 142.
I'd say possible.
Yeah. Until your schedule
Let me say this, though. I'm glad you raised the issue of double majors. The last thing, remember what I said earlier, that we don't want to in any way dumb down or lower the quality of the educational experience in the pursuit of reducing time to degree, say. And above all, I do not want to reduce the likelihood or desirability of doing a double major. When I was an undergraduate, I had 1 major, but I had 4 minors, and each of those minors had as many hours as I had in my major. How did I accomplish that? Through a sort of a crazed determination to take a lot of classes. First semester I took 21 hours, and then I went down to 18 and coasted for a while. But I love that combination of major and minors. It all made sense for me. But I graduated in 4 years, and I worked part-time for most of that time. And I'm not recommending, by the way, anyone in this. But I think double majoring, especially across colleges in the way that you're doing, is a great thing. But what we have to do is we have to work with you, advisors have to work with you to make sure that it's kind of clear what counts as staying on track in terms of graduating in a timely way. Again, we would hope you could do it in 4 years. In many cases, you're coming in with advanced placement credit or other credit. There are opportunities for summer course credit. And, you know, if one thing I really do believe in is I do think we can elevate the average number of hours that our students are taking per semester. Right now it's around 13. Many of you, I'm sure, have been advised by parents, advisors, teachers. You know, keep it down. Don't overburden yourself. But again, what we find is that students who sign up for 15 hours are doing, if anything, doing better than ones who are signing up for 12 hours. And again, it's cheaper to sign up for 15 in the long run. You know, we have to be careful, though. We want to ensure that when we make these recommendations and we try to sort of change the culture of advising, that we're doing it in a way that makes it a very positive experience for the student. We don't want this to feel like drudgery. We want this to be an exciting intellectual experience for you.
I want to add, just so everybody knows that I think I balanced Dean Deal. I never took 21 or 18 hours. The most I took was 17. I have several Fs on my record. When I graduated with a degree in sociology from UT. My grades weren't even good enough to get into the honors program. And what saved me was undergraduate research. I did undergraduate research my last year here. It meant staying a 5th year. I stayed 5. And, but that undergraduate research experience is what helped me get to grad school. I went to Duke for grad school, which in sociology is a great school. After that, I went to Michigan, and then the moment I could come back to Texas, I came back. So I want y'all to understand that the task force, there's a lot of people on that come out with very different experiences, not just 18, 21 hours, or probably straight A's. I'm very different.
I don't know that I would have appointed you associate superintendent.
So I do actually have a question for you. Okay, because we were going to treat this as a focus group, but I'm curious to know what people think about this. One of the discussions, you know, you mentioned about double majors, you asked about double majors. How many of you think it's okay, put your hand up and keep it up, okay? How many of you think that double majoring is something the university should value? Okay, keep it up. Now lower your hand if you, or keep it up if you think triple majoring is something we should value. Lower it if you think that's too much. Okay, quadruple majoring. Well, what's the number 5? Quintuple majors, right? Hank, you like quintuple majors? You're out there. So this is something that universities should think about, right? We have people with 5 majors. Maybe with 4 majors. We have people, a lot of people with 3 majors. I mean, is this something, what do you think about that? No?
This is might be a little bit of a curveball question, but obviously there are a lot of things we can be doing on campus to improve these. But in Texas, what role do you think our state-mandated admissions policies and overall college readiness issues, what role do those play in our graduation or tier routine?
Well, I'll take a shot at that. You know, we up until this past year, we're operating under the legislatively mandated 10% rule. Now it's an 8% rule. What automatic admissions means is that admission is based on one criterion, class rank. It leaves out a lot of other variables. The alternative to that kind of admissions process is often called holistic admissions, where you're looking at high school grades, class rank, extracurricular activities, the rigor and quality of the school you went to, the kind of courses that you took, whether you took AP courses and that sort of thing. Now, frankly, holistic admissions gives you more information, across the board. Nevertheless, I'm a supporter of the 8% rule. I think, though, what it means is, and by the way, most of the students who come in under automatic admission are wonderfully prepared to succeed at UT. Some students who are admitted under the 8% rule come in with not fully adequate preparation. That's a fact. And what I would say is, let's not change the law. Let's not declare failure. Let's figure out appropriate ways of introducing that preparation early. I think we can succeed. And that, I've had this experience over and over again as a teacher. I've had students come in, very often they went to a low SES high school, say in the Valley. They did not take AP courses. They were in their, the top 10% of their class. They're utterly determined to succeed, but they don't always have all of the skills that you would have gotten had you gone to a private school in Dallas. It's our obligation as an institution to do what we can, working with them, it's a partnership, to ensure that lack of preparation can be remedied so that you have academic success.
Do you know what percentage of the kids admitted by the 8% rule? Do you know what percentage of them graduate in 4, 5, 6 years?
Do you know offhand? I don't know the answer to that. We probably...
Did most of them graduate in 4 years, would you say? Or
Well, keep in mind that they're a majority of incoming class, and our incoming graduation rate, our graduation is 52%. So it's probably about that.
Yeah. In the process of collecting and analyzing data, we're going to be looking at that, but the aim is not, in my view, the aim is not because we want to gather evidence to go to the legislature and say, let's change the 8% rule. I think what we need to do is find out where we need some kind of remedy for lack of preparation in specific areas. And I have to say, one of the people who's thinking very creatively about this is Dean Music. He's working on ideas right now about, and these would be ideas that would be used by students across the state of Texas, not just students contemplating coming to UT, but creating modules. The program is called UT Edge, that would provide a lot of preparation for succeeding in college before you ever get there. But once they get here, the students get here, we have to figure out better ways of mentoring them and advising them in such a way that they succeed. Yes.
I have more questions,
Okay.
I know that in the College of Engineering, a lot of times students are contacted by the professor for their particular classes, and I hired as a student to meet with my professor, meet with the beginning of that kind of aspect.
That's excellent. Can I, just for those who didn't hear, you're really making a comment about the desirability of students meeting with a professor or advisor really every semester. And I couldn't agree more. One of the things, I told you that I wasn't going to talk too many specifics, but one of the things I'm sure we're going to recommend is to create a kind of a success tracking system that basically monitors how every student is doing, so that even before a student is in academic jeopardy, before they go into academic probation, we can identify where there are problems and then bring the resources to bear to help that student fix those problems. That's one of the things we're certainly going to recommend.
Kind of goes along on the planning side of it, just a general question. In your research, have you found that the people who take 5 or 6 years to graduate, do they have over the, I think we discussed this a little bit in the LACMD, but do they have over the 120 hours and it's not the right requirements, or are they like struggling to get the 120 hours? Is it,
You know, we were doing this research before the task force happened in liberal arts, and generally speaking, we were finding that they weren't lacking hours, they were lacking requirements. And oftentimes they were things like Spanish and government through 12L. Well, it wasn't that they were missing their major requirements, they were missing basic requirements. That was holding them up from graduating.
and so I think that just goes along with like the academic planning, and I just completely support the advisor.
Yeah, the larger kind of solution, and again, I'm not revealing anything that isn't going to be revealed soon, is providing more information, more detailed information about degree plans and about the appropriate sort of the pathways through those degree plans that make a lot of sense given your particular career goals. And one thing we would probably advise is get your general core requirements out of the way early, rather than delaying them, where you then may have trouble getting into that course, and it delays your graduation by a semester or two. Yes?
Hi, really quick, I just wanted to know if athletes were included in this, because I know when I was a freshman, I knew people who were here who were juniors, and I'm a junior now, and they're still here playing ball. So where do they fit in?
That's a very good question. Good in the sense, a difficult question, because as you know, the athletic programs they sort of operate by a set of standards and rules that are not entirely under the control of, say, the colleges. That's not a criticism. In fact, I think that athletic advising is excellent. My experience is that athletic advisors are some of the best we have on campus, so you would probably agree. But here's the situation. Everyone knows this. A student athlete has 2 full-time jobs. They are a full-time student and they are a full-time athlete. The idea that you're spending some hours a week on the playing field, and then you're sort of like just an average student in terms of having the time. It's a tremendous load on the athlete. And so, this institution has to do a better job. Our graduation rate for athletes, particularly male athletes, is not good. And the institution has to do a better job working with athletics, with the advising, with the mentoring, to improve that. Now, I would say this: the task force is, kind of looking at all of this. I think that one of the general recommendations that we're going to be making is that the folks in charge of mentoring our student athletes have to be part of this whole system that we're creating. It's a great question. It's a difficult one because the institution has not done a very good job on this very issue. And you may know this directly. I will say this: women's athletics has done a superb job in terms of graduation rates, average GPA, and so on. Men's athletics to learn from women's athletics. Don't quote me on that as a precedent. Oh, wow. Candor is my middle name.
Do you know what the percentage for full-year graduation rate is for transfer students?
Well, you know what's difficult about that is people transfer, sometimes in their first year, some in their second, some in their third. Do you know what it is if you calibrate for the total number of years in college? As I said earlier, it's not kind of the main focus. Our first charge is the first time in college group, but we would be foolish simply to limit the discussion to that group. A lot of the things that we're going to propose are going to fall over into the transfer category.
Okay. I think it goes back to the holistic application process where I know that I came from a Dallas public school from Plano, and I did not get into UT with a 3.7 GPA. I was in the top 1%. Because of that, I went to a community college, and because of the bad advising there and not being integrated early into UT, I am 1 semester behind. And I'll be one of those 4.5-year people who lost out on a semester of my time because of that application process. So is that something that's totally not going to be considered looking at changing that 8% rule?
If I could just, I'm not the university official who negotiates with the legislature, obviously. That's the president. My belief is that the president has, in his negotiations with the members of the legislature, they have arrived at this number. It was a compromise at 8%. It's a number that is going to be monitored. That is, the success is going to be monitored. How well are we doing in terms of diversity and other issues that the 8%, 10% rules were meant to address? That's going to be monitored, and if UT fails to do a good job, this is all going to be revisited. Is it going to be jettisoned? I don't think so. I think this is, I think it's here to stay at least, for the next 3 or 4 legislative biennia. I'll probably be retired before there's any change. But again, my personal view, not everybody would agree, my personal view is that this is a law that is designed with good intent. What we have to do better is in the implementation, and the implementation has to include better transitioning, better alignment between the preparation the student had in high school and what is needed here. If we can't do that, we'll fail in this achieving this goal.
Just want to add some information. When UT came to the legislature in 2009 to reform the top 10%, your own data showed top 10% students outperform non-top 10%.
Yeah, it's a myth that 10% students are somehow, we have 2 distributions, the holistic. And one reason for that is that most top 10% students, particularly if they're coming from high schools where there's college prep and all of that, are taking advantage of those things. So they come in wonderfully well prepared. It's not easy to be ranked in the top 10% in some of the, say, top suburban schools in Dallas or Houston. And so they come in and they're very well prepared, and they undoubtedly are graduating with a high GPA typically, probably in 4 years, probably with a double major. My concern, and I think we have, as an institution, we have to be concerned about students who are, they're bright, they're highly motivated, but they're coming in without all the advantages of taking college prep courses, or having come from a family where parents and grandparents went to college. And the institution has to do a better job of aligning what they bring to the situation, bringing that intelligence and drive and motivation, but providing the tools to make the transition to the very demanding environment that UT is. Again, if we can't do that as an institution, we're not going to achieve it.
Thank you guys for being here. My question is, or I would rather have y'all comment on the so-called slacker rule. As far as I understand, it's once you hit 150 credit hours, it triggers out-of-state tuition. I came into the university with a lot of AP credits. So right now, I feel like I'm stuck because I'm only a sophomore. Unless I would love to take 15 hours each semester because I'm just academically curious. I'm doing a dual degree, but right now, according to my own calculation, I'm going to trigger that.
Well, you don't have to worry right now because UT doesn't enforce the slacker rule. However, one of the, I don't suggest that this will actually happen, but one of the things that what the task force will consider is whether we should enforce the slacker rule. I don't know that we'll go that route. I mean, I understand the plight you're in. You came in with a large number of AP credits, which is a good thing. So there are a lot of trade-offs here. This is not not an easy situation. And there also might be a grandfathering if we do eliminate the so-called slacker rule.
Speaking of the out-of-state tuition, I was wondering if you, not to keep badgering you with statistics, but I was wondering if there was at least somewhat of a correlation between paying out-of-state tuition and graduating in 4 years because you'd have an increased incentive to do that. And more generally, does there seem to be any sort of correlation between the increased amount you pay and the decreased amount of semesters that you try to graduate in at UT?
Do you know the statistics on the difference between out-of-state and in-state?
Well, not at UT, but you don't have to get it down. So I'll be looking at that. I just haven't found it.
If you look at the correlation between how much you pay for tuition and graduation rates, it tends to be positively correlated across institutions. The problem there is it's heavily confounded because people going to the most elite private institutes, going to Harvard, come in with very high SATs, lots of preparation. They're paying a lot for tuition, but they're also in that kind of cohort or that category where they're likely all signs point to graduating within 4 years. So it's kind of there are a lot of confounding variables. But we can look with the data we're collecting, we just haven't done that yet, at how UT non-residential compared to residential. That would be certainly an interesting thing to look at.
Right, because I think it'd be different between private schools and public schools, where private schools you have almost everyone paying 40 to 50K, but public schools you sort of have the two, the in-state and the out-of-state, which are two huge gaps. So
right.
It'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah.
I tend to have a lot of problems getting into certain classes. Like as a freshman, there was no way I could get into a Spanish class. So I didn't start taking my 6-hour Spanish classes till my sophomore, second semester in my sophomore year. Are you gonna think anything about that and changing the ability to get into classes? Because a lot of people just can't get in because of, and that's why people claim a lot of their AP credit hours that they don't need, because they wanna get more hours so they can register early.
This is one of those things that falls under the category low-hanging fruit. This is a solvable problem, and we can solve it, and we will solve it. This will be, again, I keep revealing things that I said I wouldn't reveal, but this will certainly be our recommendation. What has to be done, though, is you have to monitor where the bottleneck courses are, and then we've got to put the resources into providing enough sections. We have to monitor semester by semester how that's going. Because we can, it's just foolish to slow down people's progress toward the degree by setting, by allowing roadblocks in the form of lack of course availability. Very good point.
A lot of your things want to apply, like I plan to. So I came in with a bunch of AP hours, but almost none of them apply to my degree. So, I mean, that's another reason.
But you could claim them, they would be elective credit, you say you don't want to do that?
No, I did claim them because I didn't realize they weren't going to be going towards my degree. But I mean, at the same time, they did enable me to register for classes earlier than many incoming freshmen, or not incoming freshmen, but like second semester. I got to register before a lot of my peers, so.
That's interesting. I have never heard that before about claiming credit and what it does for registration.
This is one reason we were looking for it.
Yeah, we're talking to you. Tell us what you know.
I was wondering if you had data on the graduation rates of specific colleges, and like if any of their programs would be college specific to address those issues.
Well, we do have the graduation rates across each of the colleges, and you know, one thing that one notices is that for example, the Cochran School of Engineering, where you have a highly selected group of students. These are students of high ability in terms of their average high school rank, their SAT scores, they're high. But they tend to have a lower four-year graduation rate. And we're looking at that. We have an engineering professor on the task force. He's very interested in trying to figure out ways that the engineering curriculum might be structured in such a way that it's not a 4.5-year program, which is kind of what it is now, and it can be made a 4-year program. But those are particular issues that we're going to have to deal with individual deans and so on. The other thing to say is most of this problem will be solved in a few of the big colleges, because that's where all the students are. So if you take liberal arts, natural sciences, and engineering, that's where 90% of what, I'm exaggerating.
It's like 60%.
But it's and you have, the School of Architecture that has just a small number of students. The School of Architecture has a high graduation rate, could improve it further, but it wouldn't affect the overall outcome. So I have to say this, as Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, if I fail to address this problem in the College of Liberal Arts, the university will not reach its targets because we're such a big component of the student body. Same thing is true of natural sciences and somewhat lesser so of engineering.
So those three colleges are almost 80%.
80%.
My name's Niru, and I'm applying to an RTF major. And I just, going off what I'm hearing everyone say, I just have a few ideas. I think to attack a problem, you can either target the 4.5 or the people that graduate 4.5 or 5 years. And to do that, it's kind of easier. You said it's like a low-hanging fruit problem, just solving advisor issues, planning, and credit problems like that. So, and I think there are also those people that graduate in 6 years. It's a little bit hard to kind of get them into the 4-year graduation. And I think you may need more substantial change in that. And in that case, you may have to focus on the administration or the student side. Like the administration side would be, do students have enough, do they have the opportunity to explore for 2 years, then graduate 2 years later in their major, double major, or can they claim the credits they need, or are advisors teaching them the same thing? Or on the student side, it's just either instilling theories of intelligence or efficacy like you mentioned, or just drawing in a group of students through your admissions process.
You should be on our task force.
Yeah, I have a little more to say. The admissions process is another thing, and there's so many possibilities with that. Is 8% automatically accepting people at 8%? Is that, are you looking through their character to see what they're like, or are you just automatically accepting them?
By state law, it's automatic.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know if that may or may not be a problem, because I know a kid that's like top 10%, but hardly there, and he got into like Yale. So his SAT score was great, and he was a great motivated student. So I think you have to analyze a lot more than just 8%. Also, I think you can even you can cater to kids that are more academically inclined or more likely to be integrated into school by just sending out view books for prospective students that kind of touch on the possibilities of UT, you know, to kind of maybe get rid of that kind of it's a party school air, or it's a sports school air. Maybe in something easy as a view book, I mean, talk about study abroad, talk about events and debates and intellectually stimulating things, and you can cater to people that are motivated, that will graduate in 4 years like that. So there's...
I mean, all of these are excellent points. I will say we are working harder on virtually all of the points you've made. One thing we've not done a very good job traditionally is in going out and recruiting people and on the basis of the academic and cultural strengths of the institution. I happened to be in New York City 2 weeks ago, and I was there for various reasons, but one reason was to have a kind of recruitment admissions reception, and a lot of prospective students attended. We're trying to boost our the students who apply from out of state. And I talked about study, but I talked about the things that we do here that I think are distinctive. And students were excited to hear this. We need to do more of that. Okay.
Yeah, I think you may need to work a little more on the admissions, because I know like UVA doesn't have a 2% rule or anything like that. So I mean, I know what you're doing. You're letting more kids get education, great education. That's awesome. But that at the same time may affect your graduation rate and make it harder to fix it. But you're doing things that no other private schools are doing. That's a good thing.
Again, there are a lot of people coming in on the 8% rule that are not, this is not an issue at all. Ones who come in where there's a mismatch in terms of their preparation, we've got to do a better job of figuring out how to make that transition a successful one. And I think that is going to be one of the big challenges. But the president, the provost, the various vice provosts, all the people on this committee, everybody I talk to really seems committed to doing a better job there. But it's kind of the soul of finding a solution.
Yeah,
Thank you for your comments.
I'd like to add another factor that I think has a lot of effect on graduation rate is the perceived value of the degree itself. I think this is particularly true in liberal arts and natural sciences, where the degree does not lead a student to a particular job path. And is the student here to get a degree from UT to hold a bachelor's, or are they here to get to have a career path, to have a life beyond UT? And I think having students focus on that earlier in their college careers will help improve that 4-year rate. And that's something I've been looking at in my own research. I work at Career Services, and we get seniors coming in every week who are coming in and say, oh, I've never come here before, I'm graduating in December, and I should probably have a job when I graduate. That would be a good thing. But these students are focused on their time here. They're not looking beyond UT. And so one thing I've been looking at is how do we get students looking at options within their degree, within their time here, so that they're not floundering around, not necessarily floundering, but exploring other options within that 4 years and looking at their options and planning for after graduation.
What I hear what you're saying, and I think it's extremely important. I think fundamentally, especially in the College of Liberal Arts, we are not fundamentally a professional training ground. I really agree with what President Powers said in his State of the University address about our fundamental mission, cultivating the mind. And I mean, that is bedrock for me. But there's nothing incompatible between that goal and providing more career guidance as we go along. And I know this is something that Dean Music has worked very hard on, and people in career services are working very hard on.
We actually are about 15 minutes over on their time, so I think they both have places that we're a few more minutes, or
yeah, well, let's stay a couple more minutes. I'm having fun. I didn't realize we were.
I was curious as to
to if y'all had honed in on undergraduate professional degree programs that have the mandatory semester-long or more internship requirements. I come from social work, and in our very last semester, we have to be in a full 40-hour-a-week internship. You have to be done with all of your coursework requirements before you enter into that internship. I know there's something similar like that in education and some other degree plans as well. And so I have friends who, because they're missing one 3-hour course, suddenly they get pushed back at least an entire semester because they have to finish that 3-hour course before they can enter into their internship.
Two things I would say. This is a case where, again, we want to have really good advising and clear roadmaps so you don't have that kind of missing course problem. The other thing, though, is in some of the smaller professional schools like social work, adding, having the internship requirement isn't incompatible with the 4-year degree program, but to the extent it adds something, it's probably not going to have an effect on the overall target because the size of the program is small. It happens that engineering is a professional training program, but natural sciences and liberal arts are not. They're not structured that way, and that's where so many of the students reside. So in a sense, it's okay if social work has these additional requirements that may lengthen time to degree. But my first point is still valid, that we need to eliminate artificial barriers. Internships are one thing, but eliminating barriers like not having actually taken a course that you could have taken several years earlier.
One thing I was kind of surprised when I came here when I transferred is that I need to take a UGS class, and along with that, there's a lot of other arbitrary sub-credits, such as a cultural requirement, a quantitative requirement, and you were talking about integrating people through research, and I think, how would you feel about replacing those credits with maybe a required undergraduate research opportunity? Because in the end, I find those classes very arbitrary, and I'm not at all interested.
What the heck? Why do we ask? How many would go for something like that?
I don't know if y'all know, but the associate dean for UGS was sitting right back there. He's gone now. When you asked that, I was like, "What's Larry doing?" Since Professor Abram, but he's gone now. You can direct it to him.
Let me just be candid on this point. A lot of work has gone on here under the leadership of the president, who was, of course, the leader even before he was president of the task force on the undergraduate reform, the reform of the core curriculum. And the president remained, this is one of his overriding commitments. And I don't think that fundamentally the changes in the core curriculum are themselves going to be revised anytime soon. I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, the flags that you referred to, quantitative reasoning and so on, those are all being developed. And we are going to, everybody's going to be listening. Certainly Dean Woodruff is going to be listening to students, getting feedback and so on about how to make it better. But the aim of the signature courses was to provide a high quality early kind of a freshman experience. I think generally that's successful, but there's still work to be done. I think the aim of the 6 flag requirement areas is to make sure that students have certain kinds of skills, writing, quantitative reasoning, exposure to global cultures, those kinds of things, ethics and leadership that are we consider as officers in the institution, critical to the idea of a truly educated person. Can we do it better? Well, we're always going to try. We're always going to try to refine. What I would say is do the core curriculum, but also add the research experience. I taught for quite a few years the psychology honors thesis course, the research course, and virtually all of us who took it after they graduated, I would get emails from them, and they'd say, you know, this was the hardest course, the most demanding, the most stressful course I took, but it was the capstone experience of my academic career. It is where I learned the most. And I really think it's important to do research and engage in it as early as possible.
Going back to when she was talking about the career services thing in that aspect, is liberal arts thinking of a way to like improve that? Because I mean, it's a very common thing for me to have to revise like my liberal arts friends' like resumes and stuff like that. I mean, Chelsea, she was the president of Senate, and I was a freshman, and she asked me to revise her resume because like we have to go through that business course, you know, BA 101. So is there stuff that like that liberal arts is doing to try to improve that so that people aren't? Because I feel like it's more like even just a confidence kind of thing, knowing how to do that so that students, because it's common for people like not going for an internship because they don't know how to do it or anything like that, and that you know it's such a thing that we're like the businesses are required to do that. But that's why we have like that confidence. And, I mean, I wonder if there's.
I'm going to let Dean Music address.
I'm on the guy. We can talk a long time about this. I have, in my role as the Associate Dean for Student Affairs and the Arts, I oversee career services, and I've been doing this now for 5 years. I can tell you that the career services director we have, Dr. Kate Brooks, is easily one of the best career services directors in the country. We know this because national organizations invite her to train other career staffs around the United States. She's written a best-selling, but a well-selling book on what to do with the liberal arts major and degree.
It was best-selling in the educational lab.
Okay, called You Majored in What? She is in career services, she is one of the most well-known figures in the United States. How many of you knew that?
I think I heard the book.
A few of you, but many of you didn't. Y'all have a gift in Kate Brooks. And one of the things that we have struggled with, because I work very closely with Dr. Brooks, is how to get people to come to career services to take advantage of the services. What we find is that not enough students take advantage of the resources they have available. We have created entire programs to try and get more students to come and take advantage of the services. How many of you have heard of Beyond the Tower? A few of you. Okay, Beyond the Tower, Kate and I created to bring more of you in because there weren't enough of you taking advantage of all the resources that they had available to them. And so one of the struggles that we have in career services is not offering services, it's getting y'all to take them. I'm not kidding. That is their big challenge. How can they get more students to come in and take advantage of their sources? And as Monica said, not in their last semester at UT, in their second year, their third year, to take internships, to get resume help, and all those different things. So this is something we've been focusing on for years. And we're about to change our strategy fundamentally, because this is what you were going to talk about.
Yeah.
So we are about to start work on a new class, and this is really what Monica's been helping with, that we're tentatively calling LA 101, but it's going to change, the name will change. And it's your BA 101 class for liberal arts students. And it will be a class that we want students to take in their first year here that will teach them all sorts of things about how to be successful in the College of Liberal Arts. There'll be things like, what is study abroad? You know, how do I do it? How do I do undergraduate research? You know, what are all these different opportunities in terms of internships? You know, how do I write an effective resume? How do I interview? How do I go find opportunities? How do I work with professors I've never met before? There are all these basic kinds of questions that many students come into this college not knowing the answers to. And at some point they answer those questions. By that point, they're third, fourth year. And it's kind of too late to put that knowledge into action. Well, you know what? You're going to get that knowledge for the first year here so that you can be prepared. And you can think about the next 4 years and plan in ways that make your 4 years here more meaningful instead of realizing your fourth year. For me, undergraduate research happened my 5th year. Why? Because I didn't figure it out until my 4th year. And if I figured it out as a first-year student, I might have gotten out of here in 4 years instead of 5. So we're going to fix it. And our solution is going to be LA 101. I'm working very closely with Dr. Brooks, with Monica, with the professor of religious studies, John Traphagen, you're familiar with Professor Traphagen, and with some other folks around the college to develop this course. We hope next fall to have a pilot of the course. It's going to be very theoretically developed so that it's not just about giving you practical information, but building these skills we were talking about. Planfulness, being able to plan for the future, build your academic self-efficacy, build your sense of integration in the college so that you feel like you're an important part of the college. Get that foundation laid in your first year at UT so that you can build on it successfully over the next 4 years. That is the goal of LA 101, and we're going to get there. But in the fall is when we're going to start college.
Willie, just one more question. Your hand was up.
I was wondering if you guys have thought about peer mentor programs, because I know as a BHP student, I'm a freshman, and I have a mentor, and he has 12 of us, I believe, and it's really easy for me to just text him or shoot him an email. Like the other week, I had a question about talking with professors during office hours, and I felt like I was going in there and it was kind of an awkward conversation, and it was something I couldn't have asked anyone else about, and I thought that he really helped me with that, so I was just wondering if you guys have considered something like that.
Yeah. So, and this isn't speaking about the task force, now I'm talking about liberal arts. I mentioned offhandedly a few minutes ago that I have grants underway. One of the grants that I've written is to expand the U-turn program in the college, and the centerpiece of that is peer mentorship. Because we believe in peer mentorship. We believe that we need to expand peer mentorship, we make it stronger in the college and more widely available. And U-turn is only one of the places that we can do it. But if we can do it in U-turn and really find a system that seems to work effectively, then we can branch out and do it more widely across the college. I can tell you that right now, and you don't know this, but so I'm about to tell you, it's being news to you. We are currently we're currently in discussions about maybe actually creating a brand new peer mentorship building in the new building. Y'all know about the new liberal arts building that's going to be done in 2013 or 2013. We're now talking about perhaps putting a peer mentorship center in that building because we think this is so important. Hopefully you think that's good.
Well, I'm on the spot here.
That's right.
No, it's a great idea.
And we don't know if it's going to fly or not because there's a lot of logistics that we have to go into something like this, but it's certainly under discussion, and that's because we believe in peer mentorship. Let me also tell you that this university is going to be facing a budget crunch. Okay, you already know this. I mean, how many of you were with us last fall, or was it last spring? Time flies. When we sat in front of you, I think in this building, and talked about the center cuts.
It was a year ago.
Right. How many of you are all here? We see y'all every year. It's a different topic. Okay, so y'all know that we're facing budget issues, and one of the things that we're going to have to do to get better is be creative. We can't just fall back on the old standbys like academic and professional academic advising and so forth. Now, those are important things, and we're not going to do everything or cut back on them. We're going to try to increase them to the extent that we can. But we're going to have to be finding new and creative ways to also deal with these issues. And one of them is peer mentorship. I have no doubt about it.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.